I think I have a problem because Marvel keeps churning out these movies in the same universe, and for whatever reason, I am not tired of it yet. Yeah, we had the pandemic that kind of caused a little bit of a fatigue, but overall, I'm going to keep consuming these movies. This time around, we got the Eternals that just came out, and nobody's ever heard of these guys if you're not a hardcore comic book nerd. And it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy all over again in terms of, are these interesting? Who are they? Yada, yada, yada. So, was this movie good? Was it bad? Did it suck? Was it amazing? I'm going to tell you, but first we got to hit my intro. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of JB versus the World. I am your host, JB. And yeah, this is the channel. Welcome back. Before I get started, I gotta remind you guys to go ahead and hit that like, share, subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss a video. Alright, so Marvel at this point of the year has released 7, count them up, 7 projects for us. I guess they're making up for last time from the Panorama last year. And this is like the new kids on the block. And everything about Phase 4 has been about the new kids on the block. We got a new Captain America, you know what I'm saying? We got a new Loki, Wanda is now the Scarlet Witch officially. What If introduced a whole different load of possibilities, and I'll get to that one at a later date. And we just got a whole lot of new new content, and this is no different. This movie is directed by Chloe Zhao, and it basically stars everybody who hasn't been featured in a Marvel movie yet. So, say for you and me watching this video, everybody else that hasn't been in a Marvel movie, you can guarantee he's in this movie. The Eternals is about a group of near immortal, superpowered aliens that have been living among us in secret basically since the dawn of time, damn near. And basically just been told, unless the evil deviants are around, don't interfere in human affairs. Live your lives in secret. And that's basically what they do until they don't, which kind of kicks off the plot. Like I said, this is a non-spoiler review, so I'm not going to go too much into detail, but that's basically the gist of it. Things go right, and yada, yada, yada. Ultimately, though, this movie is about 2.5 hours long, and it feels longer than that. This is a long film, and it's got a lot to say. Like, this is different than every other Marvel origin story that we've gotten to this point. Like, we're familiar with like grounded heroes, like we got Shang-Chi earlier this year. We've had Captain America before that, Iron Man. Like, those, even though they've had like supernatural elements, they were kind of grounded in reality. This one is telling us a story about beings that have been here this entire time. So we're going through their entire history, and it's a lot of them. There are 10 Eternals to start this film, and we have to get to know most of their backgrounds, what they're going through, and most of them ultimately get shafted on the character development front. But they do get to them a fair amount, especially Gemma Chan's Cersei, who she does a fantastic job in this, and Richard Madden's Icarus. Like, they get the lion's share of the screen time, and it comes to character development outside of them. They do what they can with everybody else. Brian David Tyree's Fastos probably makes the most of his time with what he's got, and he feels like a fully realized character along with most of the Eternals, but it's still not enough time to go around, and this movie is still long, and it's got a story to tell, so it's balancing a lot. Which brings me to my first inquiry about this this film, and it is the cast of characters. And this film, with the 10 Eternals and other characters and the bad guys, everything just kind of feels bloated, and characters don't get the development and the time outside of like the main Eternals that they follow, like I said earlier, besides Fastos, that you would expect to have in a Marvel film. Like, Marvel films do a pretty decent job of introducing us to the characters and where they come from, and how they are. And yeah, the Eternals feel like a dysfunctional family, a family nonetheless. But at the same time, though, it's just so much happening here that it just feels disjointed at times. Like I said, this movie is 2.5 hours long, and it feels a lot because it's not just the characters that are the issue here. It's the fact that they're trying to tell a story, and the fantastical elements of the story don't really blend into the MCU that we know. So it kind of feels out of place or disjointed from what we're accustomed to. And in that vein, I'll move to the story next. It just feels like it doesn't fully belong in the MCU. Like, and I'm trying to talk around that, but it just doesn't. We've seen a lot happen in the MCU between the Snap and the Guardians and what their worlds are like, and just all these extra fantastic things, but there was some level of groundedness in all of it, and this is just way out of the depth that we're accustomed to. Now, on the overall, I would give the story about a 7, and that's me being nice. I would give it a 7, but because it's in the MCU and it's set in the MCU, and this is supposed to lay the groundwork for what's to come down the line, I gotta drop it down to a 6, because these elements they introduce into the story, it just doesn't feel like it belongs, man. And that's a shame, because the actors are giving a great effort. They all give fantastic performances. The story is there, the themes are there, but because of the length of the story and how the elements of the story are set up, it feels a little bit over ambitious. And for the runtime, even with the bloated runtime and the bloated character roster, it still feels overly ambitious as a film. But on the positive tip, though, the action sequences they did in this movie were fantastic. They did a lot of good work when it came to the set pieces, when it comes to the visuals and the set pieces. They did a fantastic job, especially with the flashbacks. Everything was done beautifully. It's Marvel we're talking about here, so that really even shouldn't be like a question of did everything look good or not. It looked great. Everything looked great in the film. Even the CGI looked fantastic. It's just execution. That's really what this film just really fails at. It's the character interactions great to a point, but then you get to a point where they're talking later and they're doing certain things later, and it's like, well, where did this come from? This wasn't developed properly. And when you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean. And I'm trying not to spoil everything here, but I'll go into detail on a podcast or something soon. But yeah, this film, it just feel like it just reached for a lot, and it just feels out of place in all this. But there are 2 cutscenes in this movie, 2 post-credit scenes rather in this movie, and they do help set the tone, especially the post-credit scene, like the end of credit scene. That one, if you know, you know. And just give it a shot. And if you don't understand what's going on, comment me, hit me on Twitter or something, and we'll talk about it. But those post-credit scenes do a lot for this movie. On the overall, do I give it a thumbs up or do I thumbs down? I'm tentatively giving it a thumbs up, but it's not like all the way up. It's kind of like crooked. It's a crooked thumb. It's a crooked thumb up for this one, only because it tries to do a lot, and even with this bloated runtime and this bloated roster, it just doesn't do enough to kind of get everything together. It feels longer than what it is. It's kind of slow at times, but they try to do some good things in it. And overall, for the future of the MCU, like, this further does alter the status quo further. So if you thought Loki changed the status quo, or what happened with the post-snap and everything, the things we saw in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or WandaVision even, that when it comes to changing the status quo of the MCU, we just got another dynamic shift in the MCU. So how they handle that, especially with Spider-Man coming up in a month, so we'll see how things shake out. But yeah, this film, I mean, it's just alright. It doesn't suck. It's just It's just alright. And that's about as nice as I could put it. But that's just my take. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications of more videos. And hit me on Twitter. All my socials are down there in the thingamabob. If you want to hit me and talk about it, I'm open to it on Twitter. Just be mindful of spoilers down there, because we don't do that around here. We don't ruin stuff for nobody unless I say I will. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of JB versus the World. And I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves and each other. JB out.